my fellow sons and daughters of Skyrim? This is the Undead Warden here, and let's get to it. So before we get into the actual video and the breakdown of what I'm trying to accomplish here, this is going to be a three-part video. We're first going to go dive into the Stormcloaks, and then we're going to dive into the Imperial Scumbags, and then we're going to dive into the worst of them all, the Thalmor. First we're talking about the Stormcloaks, right? Okay, so their main leader, you get highest of the highest, right? We got Ulfric's Stormcloak, okay? And we're wanting to know a few things. We're wanting to know if they are in the right? Like, sure, they could be in the right, and the Imperials are just bootlickers of the Thalmor at the end of the day, right? Well, maybe it's more diverse than that. So let's talk about Ulfric himself. Ulfric learned the way of the voice at a young age, and he was there for approximately 10 years. And then after that, he decided to join the Imperial Legion to try and conquer and face the Thalmor, because the Thalmor at this time has already started war with the Empire. It's even mentioned that Legate Reke is also good friends with Ulfric up until the incident that happens later that I will discuss. And they were not only best friends, but they were side by side, shield brothers, shield maidens, fighting the Thalmor. And after the White Gold Concord, there was an incident in Markarth where they were overran by the Forsworn. This event was known as the Markarth Incident, where Ulfric and other Jarls of, or specifically a Jarl of Markarth, pleaded for help, pleaded for someone to come take out the Forsworn. But instead, what ended up happening is the Forsworn stayed in control and the Empire didn't do anything. So Ulfric was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna come in with this militia. We're gonna go in and I'm gonna storm the capital of Markarth with my Thum. I'm gonna take them out. I'm gonna shred them to pieces. So this is where he earned the nickname the Bear of Markarth, and not only does it suit him because that's his house sigil, you know, and then later becoming the Jarl of Windhelm, all the guards and whatnot, they have the bear. Well, with all that happened at Markarth, it made this very public. Like, let's put it in the perspective of if something were to happen now in modern day age, and it was just a takeover, and then randomly a militia comes in and just takes over and says, well, you didn't do your job, Empire. Well, there's going to be some eyes, and sadly one of the eyes were the Thalmor. They're like, oh, who's this man coming out here using the Thum and whatnot? Later finding out who it was, they captured Ulfric, and they started to, let's say, forcefully get answers from him, forcefully do stuff. They captured him, chained him up, and put him in many different situations you wouldn't want to be in. This honestly is what started the war. At least in Ulfric's mind, he's like, you know, this ain't right. This isn't how I should be treated, or none of the Nords of Skyrim should be treated. Skyrim belongs to the Nords. Hit the quota.
Because we're done bleeding for an empire that won't bleed for us. Untold numbers of Nords died defending the empire against the Dominion. And for what? Skyrim being sold to the Thalmor so the emperor could keep his throne. We're fighting because our own Jarls, once strong, wise men, have become fearful and blind to the people's suffering. We're fighting because Skyrim needs heroes, and there's no one else but us.
However, what was in that the Tower Concord that made it really, really bad? Well, they banned the worship of Talos. And honestly, who was Talos? Talos, also known as Hirte Earlybeard, was later known as Tiber Septim. And the reason he got that title was in the Third Era, it was told that he unified many races, many cultures, many people to fight against the Aldmeri Dominion, who at the time was taking things over. They slain a bunch of high elves. And this is kind of where the constant rival between high elves / the Thalmor and Aldmeri Dominion is versing against the Nords of Skyrim. Because of this and becoming a very high, I guess, not only Emperor of Tamriel, but very high standard to the Nords and all of that nature, this man was known as not only the king, but the King of Kings, Tiber Septim Stormcrown, which was a title given to him because it was said while he was using Thu'um, the crown itself had come from the storms and it had hovered over his head while he was sitting there fighting in the battles, in taking over these lands. Depending on who you ask, there's two theories to his death. The first theory is that, well, he was assassinated, and later when he was taken out by his own group, replaced. And on it, the Thalmor just think of him merely as a man instead of a god, because most of the gods that are known in Tamriel nowadays are aliens in their eyes. They're just for the high elves. It's not really for the men of Myr, you know what I mean? The men of Tamriel. So this came up with the situation where he had his throat slit, right? Where he wasn't able to use Thu'um. And, well, when you can't use Thu'um, you can't use the way of the voice, it's meant for shouting. It's kind of hard to do when your neck's not working correctly. But the second theory is that he died of old age. And sadly, there's these two stories that could be true, right? But with his passing, this is what started the Thalmor trying to take over again. And the emperor who succeeded him was, I believe, the grandson. And this is a big issue because now the Thalmor is like, okay, we're going to take it from him. We're going to take it from the rest. And this is what ended up happening. So who are the Thalmor? Why are they like this? Well, what's so important about them? Why are they trying to fight and whatnot? Well, the Thalmor are mainly high elves who believe that men are just men. They're below you. They're under your feet when they walk, kind of mindset, right? And then to top it off, they're over here. They've tricked wood elves through a lot of different methods. And when it comes to Khajiits, they literally blocked their moon, which is kind of how the Khajiit themselves look at life, right? Like that phase of the moon is how someone will be born. And they kind of just took it away. There's a whole bunch of theories into that, but this is what started the Aldmeri Dominion itself, and the Aldmeri Dominion has been around since the Second Era. So this is kind of like where they're fighting, they're putting things together, and it's this whole cluster mess of things. The Thalmor itself didn't show up until right after the Oblivion Crisis, and this is where they became a staple of the bootlicker empire, because like I said earlier, the White Gold Concord, man, I'm really butchering that name.
Concordat.
But they were the ones who put that all into effect, right? They stormed the White Tower and the Empire took it back, and then this is where the treaty came into place. In this contract, it's where it states you cannot worship Talos. And again, the Thalmor themselves can't put another person into divinity, right? They don't want to put Tiber Septim into godhood, which is where he was forced into, or not necessarily forced, but chosen to be in. right? And like I said, there is the theory of where they're like, oh, he's just a very powerful figure, but he was never a god. However, if you go to one of his shrines, it gives you a buff. It gives you some kind of form of worship. So why didn't our king Ulfric take over the empire, become the emperor, and just take out the Thalmor? Well, a lot easier said than done, clearly. You know, the empire itself is all over Tamriel and is the reason why they have that hold, right? Like, that's how it's always been. Well, the Thalmor, when they started taking over, they took out the empire, right? Or pretty much. And now the empire themselves and the Thalmor are kind of like homies, though some of them don't see it that way. But Nords aren't the only ones who don't want these high elves in their homelands. I mean, you got the warriors of Hammerfell, you know, you've got quite a few other nations themselves. Not everybody likes the Thalmor, and rightfully so. So this is where the main issue comes in. Ulfric, okay, he's tired of all this stuff. He's tired of everybody walking all over him. You know, he was let go by the Thalmor after being held captive for days on days, you know. But his good old friend, he has Torg, right? One of his best friends, High King of Skyrim. You know, one of the best is what in his mind, right? But then he's like, nah, all right, you're not my friend, man. If you were my friend, then we would be attacking the Thalmor themselves, you know? Like, homies got each other's back. You know, we're shield brothers, we're brothers. But Ulfric started to think that that's not the way, right? You're not my homie. If you were my homie, we would have went and did this. Okay. So what Ulfric ends up ultimately doing is he looks at his homie and he's like, dude, I'm gonna fight you for that crown. You know, I'm done. Let's trial by combat. Whoever wins, true High King of Skyrim, right? This is our customs. This is our nation. This is our culture. And you're gonna either hand me that crown or you're gonna have no right to go to Sovngarde. Which, Sovngarde, in case you didn't know, is basically Valhalla, right? You know, the Vikings' nature of going to heaven, or their type of afterlife, right? So, if Torg were to deny that trial by combat, what would end up happening is he'd be not able to go to an afterlife, right? So, of course, even though he didn't want to, he had to accept. So the day comes, the trial by combat. On one side, you have High King Thorg, and on the other side, you have Ulfric Stormcloak, Yado of Windhelm. Okay, now this is the big issue. On one hand, you have a man who has no training of the voice, only by hand-to-hand combat. On the other hand, you have a man who knows how to use the voice, has used it in war many, many times. Well, as you can figure, the man, Ulfric Stormcloak, uses the voice. Some people will tell you that he ripped him to shreds with his voice, and that's what killed him. But ultimately, it's also known that he did stab him at the end.
Make them not entirely true, though not entirely false either. Any Nord can learn the way of the voice by studying with the Greybeards, given enough ambition and dedication. My shouting Torg to the ground proved he had neither. However, it was my sword piercing his heart that killed him.
Right? So when he's in his mind, Ulfric's mind, he won that. And by normal Nord traditions, you would believe that he would be the winner. However, we are in the laws of just old culture, right? We're also in the laws of the Empire. Not by combat aside or anything, and I'll get into this in the part 2 video, but it was said that Torg would have even handed him the crown if Ulfric would have asked. So, take that as you will. However, Ulfric at this time decides that he's gonna leave, okay? He sees that all these guards are mad, they're trying to get him, so he starts running, right? There was a guy, I can't think of his name right now, but he's the one that is about to be executed when you first walk into Solitude, who opens the door for him. So there Ulfric runs, he gets out, he goes as fast as he can. All the events that have happened in this place has led up to this, you know, like the fact of being captured by the Thalmor, the fact that Thalmor have banned the worship of Talos, the fact that the Thalmor is doing all these things to their homeland Skyrim, right? So Ulfric has this big fighting clause. You know, he's like, if you're a true son and daughter of Skyrim, why wouldn't you fight with me? Why wouldn't you come and attack, you know? And look at me, I'm a fearless leader. I'm the one who's gonna lead us to victory, you know? For all the shield brothers and shield maidens out there, it's like, what are you supposed to do, you know? Do you want to sit here and let your whole land be controlled by someone who's not even in this land? The Thalmor, the people who treat you wrongly, the people who treat you underneath the dirt in the ground? So was that challenge justified, right? Well, of course it was justified. I mean, anybody is justified to do a trial by combat. However, was it the right thing to do? This is where it becomes a yes and no situation, right? We are the Stormcloaks. We want our land back. However, we are also assholes to other races now, right? You walk into Windhelm, all the Argonians are segregated. All the Dark Elves are being mistreated and whatnot. And is this right? No, because we might be the people who come from Skyrim. We might be Nords, right? We might be taking our land and protecting our land, but some of our people also want to help and fight the best way. And then this is where you have a lot of Nords who are on the Imperial side, right? And it's wrong that the Thalmor are taking these people, holding them hostage, interrogating them, doing means of ungodly things to them to make sure that they have something just because they worship someone that they believe is their god. However, it's not justified in the sense that you aren't helping the situation because you are playing for the wrong team. There's a theory out there that Ulfric is a sleeper agent, but in reality, he is somewhat useful to the Thalmor because they keep the Empire distracted, right? And this is where it's wrong. This is why I think it's not justified in the sense that you are not helping right people, okay? You should team up with the Empire and go against, as a lot of Nords who are on the Imperial side believe. But guess what? The big issue. Why? Why would you help the people who made it okay for them to torture you, to throw you under the bus when you wanted to help your Jarls, your people of Markarth, when you wanted to help that? And that's where I think Ulfric is justified. Do I think he is the true High King by Nord tradition? Yes, I do. However, if he would have just talked about it, maybe ran for it, maybe got some votes, something that was actually politically correct, it probably would have went better. Or if he just fought without using the voice, I feel like it would have been a different situation. And as the Dragonborn character, of course, you know, you use the voice, you're going to believe in Talos from that nature, especially if you're going as a true Nord, right? I mean, the intro shows you're captive with Ulfric, with Hrolaf, you know. You're led to Helgen before the dragon attacks. And this whole time, it's like, okay, you're not part of the Stormcloaks, but they already want to execute you just because of whatever. So it's like, not only is the Empire bamboozled by the Thalmor, but they're also corrupted in that nature. And I'm not saying Ulfric isn't a corrupted man. I mean, in reality, he is pretty corrupted. And now, wait for part 2 and how I get to that. Alright, thanks everyone. This is kind of an interesting video, 3-part series that I wanted to go through, and you know, I kind of wanted to be a very pro Ulfric man in this, but also being even on the sides, right? So I'm planning on doing the same thing with the Imperial, and no, there is no sympathizing for the Thalmor when I get to them. Yeah, screw them. If you're a high elf, which would astound me if people really play high elf, and you're a Thalmor, man, get out of here. Like and subscribe to the video if you liked it. If you didn't like it, let me know why in the comments below. And I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.